Good morning, everyone. Delighted to welcome you back to the second day of the session. My name is Manuel. I have the privilege of leading a program in ODI called the Budget Strengthening Initiative, which works very closely with a range of fragile states and with the G7 Plus group of fragile states. We've had an incredibly rich conversation yesterday. And now we move on to day two, continuing to pick up on some of the issues we had before, but also taking us on to new places as well. What I was going to do was just to sort of take the temperature a bit of how it was yesterday. I think we have some old puzzles and we have some new pieces to try and fit together into that process. And what I'd like to do is just to turn to your neighbour, and just what I want you to know is, did yesterday make you feel more optimistic about the challenges we face, or did you come away feeling more pessimistic? Actually, are there more solutions out there than you thought? Are there actually many more challenges than you really initially appreciated? So just have a quick conversation with your neighbour for a couple of minutes on, what was your takeaway from yesterday? You more pessimistic or less optimistic? What was your reaction to yesterday? Did you come away more optimistic?
Yes.
More optimistic?
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I did not expect the level of interest, the volume of interest in the subject matter.
Right. Okay.
Cooperation.
Yeah.
That alone sets the tone. Creates a sense of commitment. Creates a sense of getting solutions to meet the challenges. That is my take. Yes. Yes. There's interest, there's willingness to confront the problem. And day by day the problems are being identified for solutions to follow. And that's my point. Yes. Okay. And you?
Well, kind of what the implications are.
A bit confused?
No, I think
basically kind of set up
reminded how far we've come. I think sometimes we always see the problems up. We forget, actually, for the last 20 years, despite all the problems, we've come a long way. And that's been good.
A long way.
That's been good.
That's good.
That's fine. The whole point of this thing is to encourage people to talk to each other.
It's very good.
I don't
very
care.
Good, Mark.
What you talk about doesn't really matter. Football scores,
People are desperate to talk. So are you planning to have a discussion after R2?
Yes. Sorry. We'll just make presentation, order one, Jonathan and yourself, then we'll break, and we're going to have coffee afterwards, and then we'll do the other next two.
Oh, right.
Because Klaus is late, and also I think it breaks it up better. Fine. Sorry. Right, thank you. Hopefully that was a good introduction. For those of you who actually decided you'd rather talk about the England-Sweden match, that's fine. The English will not particularly want to talk about that match, but I know there are many people from CEDA here with us who will, and it was a remarkable goal. But a quick show of hands. More optimistic? Okay. And people who come away more pessimistic or more realistic about the challenges ahead? Okay, and quite a few of them not sure. Okay, well, actually, on that basis, that's good too. I mean, it's interesting, our conversation we've just had was both optimistic for two reasons. One, the level of interest that's being shown in the issues that South Sudan confronts. And for a new country, if that's the message you're taking away, we come out very encouraged. My takeaway with the surprising one was a reminder that despite all the problems that we've had, we have actually come a long way. And I think that's sometimes helpful to remind you. We don't have to solve all the problems in order still to be making progress. So that was my reason for coming away more optimistic from yesterday. Today we're going to slightly change the order of the plan for today, so to allow more time for discussion of these different discussions. So we're going to bring forward the coffee break. So those of you who have the programme in front of you, bring forward the coffee break slightly, and then we're going to split the presentation. So we have 2 before coffee and then 2 after coffee. rather than suggesting straight after breakfast you go into four presentations back to back, which I think is a pretty heavy demand on people. So what I want to do is introduce our first two speakers for this morning, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my colleague Jonathan Glennie here on my right, the far right-hand side, who has joined ODI 2 years ago and has already made a tremendous impact. Many of you will be following him, will have seen him either on the Guardian blog on a regular basis, or you've been following him on Twitter. Those of you before that will have probably read his book, The Troubled Braid. If you haven't, there's a normal book signing ceremony afterwards. And a quick plug, Jonathan is in the process of writing another book, so that will be on the bookstores for Christmas.
Yeah.
That's a fun. Good.
Not.
Sorry, Jonathan has been leading a lot of the work and a lot of thinking we've been doing around aid, and in the past he has had a role of speaking as the Christian Aid spokesman for aid. He's also had the role of being the Christian Aid director in Colombia, so both from a London perspective and also very much from a country perspective is the way he's been working. I'm delighted that he can come to speak to us this morning. And then our second speaker this morning before the coffee break is Juanita Olarte, who is the policy advisor to the Colombia's new International Development and Cooperation Agency. And delighted that she can join us. Many of you, please, many of you will know her from DAC days for her roles that she's been playing both through the Paris and through the Busan processes, in particular through, as many of you know, Colombia led the task force on South-South cooperation in the run-up to Busan. Juanita was very involved in that side as well, so we're very delighted that you can come and talk to us and give us perspective on Colombia too. Klaus, as you arrived, I'll extend the introductions as well. We were just not quite sure whether you can make. Then after coffee, I'm delighted that Klaus Ruderschauser will be able to come and speak to us. Klaus has been in the European Commission for 20 years. He's had a phenomenal range of experiences, and his CV makes you think how it is at all possible to have a job that does all those things simultaneously. But he was responsible just for one part of one of his jobs was programming the entire European Development Fund, which is the largest single source of grant financing in the entire world, to, I lost track, 86, 93, you'll probably correct me, a number of countries. And now his role is the Deputy Director General in DevCo with particular responsibility and interest on quality and impact, which for any of us who've watched EC programs the last 20 years is another major task ahead, I suspect, as well. If you don't mind, I will make a comment about the fact that you came, I think, do you come on the train?
Yeah.
Yeah. Klaus was also responsible for the Trans-European network, European transport networks in his early stages. But anyway, we're delighted that the train got here, albeit slightly later than originally planned.
The schedule is not ideal. They should put an earlier train on.
And then finally, I'm delighted to welcome Agri Tisa Sabuni, who is the economic advisor to the President of South Sudan. When I said that I've met people who have jobs that look extremely challenging, I think all of us who've worked in countries emerging out of conflict know just how hard the people in those administrations work. We sat down, we had a conversation. I think we clocked up that for 5 years it was 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. I'm delighted that your current role allows you the occasional visit to do other things, having stopped doing that role. But basically, Tisa was involved in the creation of the Ministry of Finance in South Sudan ahead of the independence, and as they now has moved across to be the economic advisor to the President of South Sudan. So delighted you can join you. Particularly delighted to welcome you to London, as we were having a conversation over dinner and we realised actually our forefathers had met, and apparently very kindly Tisa's forefather welcomed my forefather to his village back about 150 years ago, and my forefather was, I think, the first European to get there, which was a slightly sort of interesting point. Anyway, so I'm very delighted to return hospitality rather than belatedly in the process, but thank you very much. Yeah. So, the first two sessions we'll take with Jonathan and Anita with presentations and a chance for collections, and then Klaus and have a break for coffee, and then Klaus and Tisa after that. Just so that people who are online know, yes, it is a change of plans, so when you're planning to get your cup of coffee, it's 10:30 UK time is the time to go for. Jonathan.